Hi everyone, right now I'll show you how to install Anaconda on a Windows machine. So right now I'm using Windows 10 system and will show you how to set Anaconda and I'll show you how to set up Anaconda on a Windows 10 machine. So first thing you need to do is you need to download Anaconda. So for that we'll just Google Anaconda, and the first link that you should get should be from anaconda.com, and you can ignore the things below. So if you look over here, there is already an option of individual edition. So if you want, you can directly jump from here, or I'll show you how to go from the website to the downloads page and how to download the individual edition. So let's go to products, and over there you'll find this option of individual edition. Once you scroll down to the bottom of this page, you'll find options for different installers for Windows, Mac, and Linux. We're looking for Windows, so we'll go for Windows 64-bit graphical installer. If you are using an older version of Windows, probably which is 32-bit, and you're sure that the system is 32-bit, then you can go for the 32-bit system. Otherwise, you can stay at the 64-bit. So I'll just save this thing on my desktop as Anaconda. Cool. So by the time this downloads, if you notice, it says Python 3.8. So if you go and check the current version of Python from the official website of Python, if you look over here, it's 3.9.6 right now. So typically the releases of Anaconda, the version of Python included with Anaconda, is somewhat older than the version that you would find on python.org, but that's fine. That typically works fine for all our use cases. And remember, we are using an individual edition. We are not using any kind of commercial or a paid kind of license for enterprise or something. So be aware of that thing as well. Cool. So we'll close this window. Our Anaconda installer is just about to download. So that's pretty big in size. It's around 477 MB, roughly half a GB. So that may take some time on your system depending on your download speed. For me, it's nearly downloaded. So I'll close this thing and let's run the installer. So depending on how you are configuring your system, you may sometimes want to run the Anaconda installer as an administrator. For example, if you do the installation and at the end of installation you get some kind of errors like unable to create shortcuts or something, then probably you can uninstall Anaconda and run this again with runner's admin privileges. That works. For me, I'll just run it normally by double clicking this thing, and then you'll get a security warning, and then you just need to click on run. So this is the setup. You just need to click on next. It will ask you for accepting the license agreement, and that's what we need to do. And depending on what you want to do, you may prefer to do just me or for all users. Depending on what you select at this place, whether you use just me or all users, the install location of your Anaconda changes. For example, if you do for all users, then it gets installed in a different location in under program files or under program data. But if you do just me, then it is going to get installed in your users folder. When I say users folder, I mean somewhere in something like this. For example, C users, and then there would be your username like this. My username has been Gaurav, and so under this folder somewhere your Anaconda would get installed. Cool. So in my case, I'm going to do it for all users because I wanted to get installed in my program files or program data folder, and then I'll hit next. This will again ask you for permission, and then you just allow it, and then it will ask you for the install location. So that's what I was telling you guys. So this can be customized even if you select for all users or for just me. It can be changed by you, but I prefer it doing for all users. Cool. So in this case, it's getting installed under program data. So keep a note of this location where this is getting installed, so that if in case some issue happens later, you're able to fix those issues by using this path. All right, so we'll just, and you can also note the space requirement. It says it requires around 3 gigabytes and available is 33.38. Well, I'll go ahead with installation and I'll hit next. This page is important over here. So what you should be doing if you're not aware of what this is you just need to put a tick mark or a checkbox in both the checkboxes. Even though this is not recommended, instead open Anaconda 3 with the Windows something, but prefer doing or enabling this checkbox. So this is important if you are installing Python via Anaconda for the first time on your system. If you have already installed some Python and you are aware of how Anaconda and Python works, then probably it's it's your choice whether to enable this or not, but otherwise just make sure you put a tick mark in this box, otherwise you'll see an error, which I'll show you right now while this thing installs, which you might get if you don't put a tick in this tick box. Also, you need to check this thing so that your system recognizes Python 3.8 or whatever Anaconda installs as the default Python. Now I'll click on install and let's wait for this to finish. By the time, I'll just show you what happens if you don't enable that checkbox. So I'll open a normal command prompt on Windows, CMD, or what you call as terminal on Mac OS or on Ubuntu. And this is your C drive and your users folder with which you are logged in. I'll just type Python over here. Once I hit Python, it doesn't do anything. All right, it just opens this page of the Microsoft Store telling me to install Python from here. Or in some cases, you might get the typical old error which says Python command not found or Python is not recognized as internal or external command. So in some cases that might happen, but in the newer version of Windows, it just takes you to the Microsoft Store asking you to install Python from there without showing any error over here. All right, but nothing else happens, no error, nothing else. So I'll close this command prompt right now, and I'll let this thing finish. Once this thing is finished, we'll do a test again whether we are able to run Python or not, and then we'll continue. This may take some time depending on how powerful your machine is, how old it is, and how much RAM it has. It may take from few minutes to probably close to an hour, like 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or an hour, depending on how old your machine is. So we'll come back once this is finished. So this thing is installed right now. Now you can see it has completed, and if you see the details panel, so it will show you a bunch of locations where it got installed, where it made the Python shortcuts, etc. So you can see it shows the program data Anaconda 3 menu. Sometimes people face an issue that the things is unable to create Windows shortcuts or something like that. If it shows that, then most likely your Anaconda is installed, but it was unable to create shortcuts. That's it. So shortcuts are not something, at least not very important for me, because I know how Anaconda works and how to launch it in different ways, a bunch of ways without using the shortcuts itself. But typically, if you face that issue, as I told earlier, you should probably try running this in an admin mode or with admin privileges by right-clicking this thing and then clicking on run as admin. Otherwise, this should be fine. So this worked very fine, perfectly fine for me. So I'll go and hit on next, and probably if you want you can install PyCharm, but I'm not interested in this. I'll just click on next, and I don't want to see any tutorial as of now, and I'll just leave these things as it is. Sometimes in case of, for some of you guys, it might ask you to restart your machine. If it asks you, you should ideally do that, and even if it doesn't ask, you should ideally restart your machine. If probably in some cases you might face some kind of issues. That's the reason I'm telling right now. But now if I go and press Windows button, type cmd, and I open the command prompt again, and this time if I type Python, it takes me to the Python shell or the Python interpreter without opening any kind of Microsoft Store or without giving me any errors. If this happens, it means your Python installed perfectly fine. When you're working with Anaconda, most likely you installed Anaconda for two things. One is your Python, the executable file, which gives you the Python interpreter, and you can do certain operations over here. And you want to exit, you can exit like this. So I'll close this thing. And another thing that you'll find is there's something called a Jupyter notebook that gets installed. So if I just run this thing, it will start a local server or Jupyter local server on my Windows machine and open a new tab with the UI of Jupyter in my default browser. So that's what it does. So once you do this thing, you can create notebooks, Jupyter notebooks into your system and run code from there. That's pretty simple. It's a very useful tool. And that's how Anaconda gets installed. One last thing I'll show you is once the installation is complete, if you face some kind of issues where your Anaconda is showing you some errors or you're not able to run it even because of some issues it's failing, so you need to go to the location where Anaconda got installed. So if you would remember, for me it was program data, and program data folder is sometimes hidden on machines. So I'll just type program data explicitly on my address bar, and you can see I've already searched Anaconda and gone to this lib folder of Anaconda 3 in the past. So I'll just leave program data as of now, and then I'll go to Anaconda 3. Once I'm over there, you can see that there are a bunch of folders and a lot of DLL library files over there, and you can also see Python executable is present. If you just run this also opens the interpreter, but that's fine. We can do it in other ways also. But this is what happens. So if there is an installation error or something, the first thing you should go do is you should come to this folder and see does it contain so much of content or not, because mostly I've seen when someone installs Anaconda and they face some kind of issue, they get only 3 or 4 or 5 folders installed over here or created over here. That's it, nothing else. But if all of this got created and still you're not able to run this thing, then probably you can just try if you're able to run Python. If you are able to run Python, then the only thing that you need to do is just add this thing to your path variables of the Windows machine and everything should work perfectly fine. That's one thing. And even if after trying administrative installed and everything, restarting your system multiple times and everything, if that doesn't work, often it works in a way when you try to install an older version of Anaconda, specifically something like 3 months old or a year old version of Anaconda. That typically works on most of the systems. If you are using Windows 7 or 8 and you are still facing some issues, I've seen an very older version of Anaconda, something like Anaconda raised in the starting of 2019 or the end of 2018. They work pretty well on older Windows 7 systems. That's what happens. But definitely older versions of Anaconda would have an older version of Python as well. So you need to go to this page for that. Or I'll just say Anaconda archive. If you go to this repo.anaconda.com/archive, you'll find older versions of Anaconda with the last modified or you can say the release date, and you need to select the platform. So it contains Linux, Mac, Windows, everything with the 64-bit and the 32-bit version. So this is 32-bit, and the one with x86_64 is the 64-bit version. So you need to scroll down, go to the particular version that you're looking for the particular year, and then you can install that from there. All right. So if nothing works, then you probably need to try out some older version, installing, reinstalling, and restarting your system. That may take some time, but you'll be able to figure that out. So this is how you need to install Anaconda, and that's it. Thank you.